So I inherited all of these orchids from a client, and they were just in horrible shape. The leaves were pleated. They were so dry and dehydrated. And this particular client told me that she'd always been instructed, and I've heard this from multiple people, that the way to water the orchid is to put a couple of ice cubes down here on the potting soil and let them melt, and that's the appropriate amount of water. Well, that's a terrible idea. Please don't put ice cubes on your orchids. These are, oh, Henry wants to say hello. He's checking out the orchids here. Orchids live in warm climates, typically humid climates, and they don't live where there's ice. So the temperature is crucial to your orchid care. And if you put something icy cold on these roots, you can send them into shock and you can kill them. So how do you water your orchids? The best thing to do is to actually dip your orchids into warm water, so water that is about the temperature of the room or your body. So I've got a sink here that's already filled with about 2 gallons of water, and I've already got one of my orchids soaking right now. And you add your fertilizer to it if they're not in stress. Like these orchids were in stress last week, so I would not have fertilized them. They would have I just dipped them in the water. But this time we're actually giving them a little food. So you sprinkle your fertilizer in here, mix that up. Take your orchid out of its terracotta pot typically, and it's going to look something like this. See? And here's all of my little aerial roots. And I am going to just put that here into my nice warm water. And I'm going to let these soak for, and I'll give a little help. I'm going to let these soak for probably about 10 or 15 minutes. I'll drain the sink, let these dry out, pop them back in their pots, and then they're ready to go for another week to probably about 10 days, and then they'll get watered again this way. This is the best way to keep your orchids growing and healthy and thriving.